Hey guys, tonight we're not just going to tell a story, we're going to live it. Picture yourself, if you can, as a newborn dromedary, your long, wobbly legs struggling to find purchase on the shifting sands of the Sahara. The air shimmers with heat, so intense it makes the distant dunes dance like mirages. You feel the sun, a relentless, golden hammer, beating down on your still soft coat. This isn't just history. It's a sensory overload, a primal existence where every breath is a fight against the elements. Honestly, if you were actually there, you probably wouldn't survive the first hour, let alone a lifetime. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're just hours old, a gangly, fawn-colored creature blinking against the glare. The world is a vast, sandy expanse, stretching endlessly in every direction, punctuated only by the occasional scrubby bush that somehow clings to life. You hear the low, comforting rumble of your mother, a sound that vibrates through your very bones, drawing you closer. Her warmth is a shield against the desert's harsh embrace, a gentle mountain of fur and muscle. You push against her flank, seeking the familiar taste of her milk, your instincts already kicking in. This is your first lesson. Survival begins with connection, with the one who protects and nourishes you. The air itself feels ancient, laden with the dust of forgotten empires and the whispers of countless journeys. You learn to brace yourself against the dry wind, a constant companion that sculpts the dunes and stings your eyes with fine grit. Your humps, small and soft now, are nothing more than potential, a promise of the incredible reserves you'll one day carry. For now, they're just adorable bumps on your back. You quickly discover the rhythm of your mother's days, grazing on tough, thorny desert plants that would send any human running for a dentist, and then resting in the sparse shade cast by her own massive body. You quickly realize that water, even in these early, protected days, is a precious commodity. You watch her drink, taking in astonishing quantities, and you intuit that this ability, to store and ration, will be your greatest asset. Historians still argue whether early nomadic tribes truly understood the dromedary's unique water-saving mechanisms or simply marveled at their endurance. Your world, initially, is small, a few square miles around the watering hole where your mother and her small herd gather. You see other camels, of course, their varied shades of beige and brown blending seamlessly with the landscape. There are the older, grizzled males, their faces etched with the sun's stories, and the playful youngsters, kicking up sand in mock battles. You learn to distinguish their calls, from the soft grumbles of contentment to the indignant roars of protest when a particularly prickly bush is encountered. It's a language of sorts, understood through instinct and subtle shifts in posture. One quirky tidbit about your kind: those long, expressive eyelashes aren't just for batting, they're incredibly effective at keeping out the perpetually blowing sand. Think of them as built-in, desert-proof goggles, way more stylish than anything humans could invent. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, the desert cools rapidly. You huddle close to your mother, feeling the night air, which can drop surprisingly low. The stars emerge, a dazzling tapestry of pinpricks against the inky blackness, seemingly close enough to touch. You fall asleep to the gentle sounds of the herd chewing, the soft snuffles of breath, and the vast, profound silence of the desert. This is your cradle, your classroom, and your entire universe, all at once. Every new sunrise brings another lesson in survival, another subtle clue about the incredible journey that lies ahead for a creature designed perfectly for this harsh, beautiful world. The days bleed into weeks, and the weeks into months, each one etching new lines of experience onto your burgeoning frame. You're no longer a wobbly newborn but a curious, gangly youngster, all knobby knees and an insatiable desire to explore. Your mother, ever watchful, still provides the anchor for your world, but she also nudges you towards independence. You learn the nuances of the desert's flora, which thorny acacia offers palatable leaves, which bitter bush should be avoided entirely, and the rare, succulent plants that are like finding a hidden treasure chest filled with water. It's a slow, deliberate education in survival, taught by the sun and the sand. You discover the subtle language of the wind, how it changes direction and intensity, hinting at distant weather patterns. Sometimes it carries the scent of something new, a far-off oasis, the presence of other animals, or, most intriguing, the faint, metallic tang of humans. You learn that your incredibly sensitive nose isn't just for sniffing out dinner, it's a crucial early warning system. You also learn about the ground itself. Not all sand is the same. Some stretches are firm and easy to walk on, while others are soft, shifting dunes that swallow your feet with every step, making progress a laborious effort. You quickly adapt your gait, learning to spread your broad, leathery feet to distribute your weight, an ingenious natural design that allows you to float over surfaces where other creatures would sink. This is a mainstream historical fact. The camel's foot structure was absolutely vital for traversing the vast, shifting sands of the Sahara, making them the ultimate desert transport. Play becomes a vital part of your education. You chase your peers across the dunes, engaging in mock charges and playful nips, honing your strength and agility. You learn about dominance within the herd, observing the subtle head bobs and defiant snorts that establish the pecking order. You even discover the joy of a good roll in the sand after a long day, letting the cool grains work their way deep into your coat, scrubbing away the dust and grime. It's surprisingly therapeutic, almost like a desert spa treatment. One quirky tidbit you pick up: you notice how the older camels seem to know exactly where to find water, even when there's no visible sign. They'll pause, sniff the air, perhaps paw at the ground, and then lead the herd directly to a buried spring or a hidden rock basin filled after a rare rain. It's an ancient knowledge, passed down through generations, or perhaps an almost supernatural sense of the desert's hidden veins. You try to mimic them, testing your own nascent intuition, though usually with far less success. Historians still argue whether this uncanny ability is purely instinctual, a result of learned memory, or perhaps something more akin to a heightened sensitivity to subtle geological cues. The desert also introduces you to its less friendly inhabitants. You learn to recognize the slither of a snake in the sand, the sudden dart of a scorpion, and the distant howl of a jackal. These are not threats to your size, but they are reminders of the constant vigilance required in this unforgiving landscape. You see your mother, usually so placid, become instantly alert, her ears swiveling, her head held high, when danger is perceived. Her calm strength is a constant reassurance, a living example of resilience. You learn that true strength isn't just about muscle, it's about endurance, patience, and knowing when to conserve your energy and when to push forward. Every sunrise brings a new lesson, every sunset a quiet reflection on the day's survival. Then, one day, the routine of your life shatters. The familiar quiet of the herd is pierced by new sounds. Human voices, a strange mix of guttural calls and rhythmic chanting, carried on the wind. You instinctively tense, your ears swiveling, your large eyes scanning the horizon. Your mother, usually so calm, shifts nervously, a low rumble emanating from her throat. Your inherent wariness of these bipedal creatures is strong. You've seen them from a distance, fleeting figures on the edge of your world, but never like this. They emerge from the shimmering heat haze, a small procession of figures draped in flowing robes, their faces shrouded against the sun. They lead a few other camels, older, more stoic than you, their humps laden with bulging sacks and tightly bound bundles. The scent of them is strong now: wood smoke, sweat, and something else, something foreign and intriguing. As they draw closer, you can pick out individual details: their sandals kicking up puffs of dust, the glint of metal on their tools, the deep, resonant voices that seem to carry across the vast emptiness of the desert. This is a crucial moment, a pivotal shift from your wild, free existence to something entirely new. You are about to become a part of the grand tapestry of human commerce. Your mother, after an initial period of unease, seems to recognize something in their approach. Perhaps it's the familiar sight of the other camels, or the way the humans move with a practiced confidence that suggests a long history of interaction. Still, she keeps you close, shielding you slightly with her massive body. The humans approach cautiously, their gazes assessing. They speak in a language you don't understand, but their tones are surprisingly gentle, almost coaxing. One of them, a man with kind eyes and a weathered face, reaches out a hand, slow and deliberate, towards your mother. She allows him to touch her, a low grumble of acceptance rumbling in her chest. This initial interaction is a mainstream historical fact. The domestication of camels, specifically dromedaries, revolutionized trade across vast arid regions, allowing goods and ideas to flow where previously only the most intrepid explorers dared to venture. Without your kind, the sprawling networks of the Saharan trade routes, connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean and beyond, simply wouldn't have existed as they did. You watch as the humans expertly tether your mother to one of their older, more experienced camels, a large male whose gaze holds a weary wisdom. You're not sure what's happening, but the quiet efficiency of their movements suggests a well-rehearsed ritual. A quirky tidbit. You notice how quickly they establish a rapport with the other camels, speaking to them in soft clicks and whistles, almost like a secret language. It makes you wonder what kind of conversations these humans have with their own kind. Do they use such gentle tones, or are their interactions as brusque as some of their movements? Historians still argue whether the initial domestication of camels was a gradual process of coexistence or a more deliberate human intervention. Regardless, the bond formed between your kind and theirs, though transactional, often became surprisingly deep. You feel a rope being placed around your own neck, a light, unfamiliar pressure. It's not tight or painful, just a firm suggestion of direction. You resist at first, your natural instinct to shy away from constraint. But the man with the kind eyes murmurs soothingly, and your mother nudges you forward with her nose. You take a tentative step, then another, falling into line behind her. The wild, open desert that has been your home begins to recede, replaced by the steady, measured pace of the human caravan. The gentle journey has truly begun. The first time the real weight settled on your back, it was a strange, almost unsettling sensation. You'd carried your own weight, of course, and the playful nudge of another young camel, but this was different. The humans, with their surprising strength and even more surprising ingenuity, approached with bundles of tightly woven fabric, dried goods, and what smelled like exotic spices. They laid a thick, padded saddle across your still-growing humps, adjusting it with practiced movements. You shifted uneasily, feeling the unfamiliar pressure. Then came the first load. It wasn't a single, overwhelming burden, but a series of lighter packages, carefully balanced and secured with an intricate network of ropes and knots. Each item was placed with a gentle precision, but the cumulative effect was undeniable. You felt your powerful legs brace, your muscles tense. This was what you were being prepared for, what your ancestors had done for centuries, to carry the wealth of nations across impossible distances. A mainstream historical fact. A fully loaded dromedary camel could carry between 300 to 600 pounds, approximately 135 to 270 kilograms, for extended periods, making them the ships of the desert long before actual ships traversed vast oceans. The initial steps were awkward. You swayed a little, testing your balance, feeling the shifting weight above you. It was like learning to walk all over again, but with a backpack full of, well, you weren't entirely sure what was in there, but it certainly wasn't light. You let out a low grumble of protest, a soft, vibrating sound in your throat, but the human leading you, the one with the kind eyes, just offered a reassuring pat on your flank. You soon learned that complaining didn't actually lighten the load, so you might as well get on with it. It's a bit like when you realize you have to do the dishes. Grumbling only makes it take longer. You quickly discovered the rhythm of the caravan. It was a slow, deliberate pace, a steady plodding across the vast plains and gentle inclines. The other camels, older and more experienced, seemed to move effortlessly under their burdens, their gaits smooth and efficient. You tried to mimic them, finding that a long, rhythmic stride was far more comfortable than short, choppy step. Your broad feet, designed for the sand, spread and gripped, giving you surprising stability even when burdened. You also started to understand the commands, simple clicks and guttural words that directed your movements. Hut! To make you kneel, cur! To rise, iss! To halt. It was a basic vocabulary, but enough to manage the journey. One quirky tidbit about this process. The humans often sang or chanted during the loading process, seemingly to soothe both themselves and the animals. Sometimes it was a low hum, other times a melodic, repetitive song. You couldn't understand the words, of course, but the rhythm was calming, almost hypnotic, settling your nerves as the ropes were tightened. Historians still argue whether these chants were purely functional, a way to maintain morale and synchronicity, or if they held deeper spiritual significance for the caravanners. Either way, they certainly made the job feel a little less like you were just a pack mule. You were a pack camel, thank you very much. As the sun climbed higher, you felt the weight but also a strange sense of purpose. You were part of something larger now, a moving entity that traversed the desert, connecting distant worlds. The dust kicked up by your predecessors formed a hazy cloud around the caravan, a golden halo in the morning light. You were no longer just a camel. You were a vital cog in the ancient machinery of trade, an unwitting participant in a grand adventure. Now the real journey begins. You settle into the rhythmic, almost hypnotic swing of the caravan, a steady, deliberate movement that will become the defining pulse of your days. Hour after hour, your broad, cushioned feet lift and fall, across the vast, undulating canvas of the Sahara. The world narrows to the swaying flank of the camel in front of you, the shimmering horizon, and the ever-present, tireless sun. You learn to conserve energy, finding the most efficient way to carry your load, letting your body adapt to the constant exertion. The early mornings are often cool, almost crisp, a deceptive prelude to the furnace that will ignite later in the day. You feel the first rays of the sun, a gentle warmth on your back, slowly intensify into an overwhelming blaze. The air becomes thick and heavy with heat, the sand beneath your feet radiating it back up in waves. You learn the importance of your thick coat, a marvel of natural engineering that insulates you from both the scorching sun and the biting cold of the desert night. It's like wearing your own personal climate-controlled duvet, except, way more stylish and practical. Days are long. You trek across immense, flat plains where the horizon seems to stretch into infinity, then through towering, sculpted dunes that rise and fall like frozen ocean waves. Sometimes, the wind picks up, carrying fine grit that stings your eyes and coats your fur. You instinctively lower your head, your long eyelashes and nostrils designed to filter out the worst of it. This isn't just travel, it's a profound immersion in the raw power of nature. A mainstream historical fact. These Saharan trade routes, often referred to collectively as the Trans-Saharan trade, were not single, fixed paths but a network of shifting trails, sometimes adapting to political changes, environmental conditions, or the discovery of new resources. You learn to recognize the subtle cues of the environment. The faintest scent of vegetation on the wind, the distant glint of a rock outcrop, or a slight shift in the texture of the sand might indicate a change in terrain or even the promise of a hidden wadi. You observe the humans, too, their heads constantly scanning, their eyes narrowed against the glare. They consult with each other, pointing to distant landmarks that are invisible to your less discerning eyes, murmuring about stars and ancient maps only they can read. A quirky tidbit that you find amusing is their peculiar habit of always covering their mouths and noses with cloth, especially when the wind kicks up. You, with your specially designed nostrils that can close almost completely, find it a bit theatrical. Like, really, a bit of dust never hurt anyone, right? Well, maybe a lot of dust. Historians still argue whether the initial decision for caravanners to wear such extensive coverings was purely practical for protection against sand and sun, or if it also had social or religious significance in different cultures along the route. For you, it's just another human quirk. As the sun begins its descent, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples, a sense of quiet calm descends upon the caravan. The heat dissipates, replaced by the rapidly cooling air. You hear the soft lowing of other camels, the creak of leather, and the hushed conversations of the humans as they prepare camp. You've walked countless miles, carried an immense burden, and yet, there's a profound satisfaction in the quiet resilience of your kind. The journey is long, but it is also your purpose, etched into your very being. The most anticipated moments of any journey are the stops, especially when those stops mean water. You can smell an oasis long before you see it, the subtle scent of damp earth and verdant life carried on the hot, dry air. It's a scent that quickens your pace, a promise of respite in the endless beige. And then, there it is, a shimmering patch of green in the distance, growing larger with every determined step. It's like finding a Starbucks in the middle of nowhere, only instead of lukewarm coffee, it's life-sustaining water. As you draw closer, the sparse scrub gives way to more substantial vegetation, tough, broad-leafed plants, then date palms, their fronds swaying gently in the breeze. The air feels different here, cooler, carrying the faint sound of trickling water. A mainstream historical fact. Oases were not just watering holes, they were crucial hubs of human activity, serving as trading posts, places for caravanners to rest, resupply, and exchange information, and sometimes even small, fortified settlements. They were true islands of civilization in a vast, empty sea. The moment you arrive, the harnesses are loosened, the heavy loads carefully removed from your back. Oh, the sweet relief! You shake yourself vigorously, stretching muscles that have been taut for days. Then, the most glorious sound, the gurgle and splash of water. You make your way to the edge of the pool or the well and drink deeply, slowly, savoring every cool, refreshing gulp. You can drink an astonishing amount, replenishing the reserves that your humps, which are actually fat storage, not water, a common misconception, have been carefully converting for energy. Your body is a masterpiece of efficiency, allowing you to go for days without a drop, but oh, how good that first drink tastes! While you drink, you observe the humans. They set up camp with practiced efficiency, erecting temporary shelters, lighting small fires for cooking, and tending to their own needs. You see children playing, their laughter echoing in the sudden quiet of the oasis. Women prepare food, and men discuss the journey, their voices low and serious. You watch as other caravans arrive, a mix of unfamiliar faces and camels from different regions, all converging at this vital lifeline. It's a busy, vibrant place, a stark contrast to the desolate miles you've just traversed. One quirky tidbit you notice is how much the humans seem to value a particular dark, hot beverage they brew at the oasis. They sip it slowly, seemingly energized by its bitter taste, and it seems to be a central part of their social rituals. They even offer small sips to some of the older, favored camels, though you much prefer the pure, unadulterated water. Historians still argue whether the widespread practice of drinking coffee or tea among caravanners was primarily for its stimulating effects to combat fatigue, or if it also served important social and cultural functions in fostering camaraderie during long journeys. For you, it's just another one of their peculiar habits. The oasis offers more than just water, it's a sensory feast. You smell the earthy scent of dung from other animals, the sweet fragrance of date blossoms, and the pungent aroma of human cooking. You hear the chatter of voices, the braying of donkeys, and the distant call of desert birds. These brief stops are precious, a chance to truly rest and recover, gathering strength for the next grueling leg of the journey. You graze on the richer vegetation, your powerful jaws making short work of even the toughest leaves. For a few precious hours, the desert feels less like an adversary and more like a generous host, offering a momentary reprieve before the endless march resumes. Back on the trail, the vastness of the Sahara asserts itself once more, but now you observe the subtle dance between the human caravanners and the seemingly featureless landscape. It's a profound lesson in navigation, an art form perfected over millennia. You, with your instincts, sense direction, but they, the humans, rely on something more complex, something beyond simple scent trails or the pull of an oasis. You watch them during the day, their eyes constantly scanning the horizon. They point to distant rock formations, seemingly indistinguishable to your eye, but clearly significant to them. They talk about the sun's arc, how its position at different times of the day offers a compass. You don't understand the specifics, of course, but you grasp the general principle. The sun is a giant clock in the sky, marking not just time but direction. This is a mainstream historical fact. Ancient desert navigators relied heavily on celestial bodies, especially the sun and stars, for their precise directional guidance across the trackless waste. As night falls, their methods become even more mesmerizing. They stop the caravan, spread out blankets, and then, under the dazzling canopy of stars, they become quiet, almost reverent. They point to specific constellations, their voices low as they identify patterns you've seen countless times but never understood as anything more than beautiful pinpricks of light. They talk about the North Star, or Polaris, a fixed point around which the entire celestial sphere seems to rotate. It's like they have a secret map etched in the sky itself, a celestial GPS that never fails. Historians still argue whether some of the earliest forms of complex astronomical observation were developed by desert nomads specifically for navigation, predating more formalized studies in settled civilizations. A quirky tidbit you observe is their peculiar reliance on certain very small, seemingly insignificant piles of stones. Sometimes, a caravaner will veer slightly off the main track, dismount, and add a stone to an existing cairn, or even build a new, small one. These little rock piles, barely noticeable amidst the vastness, seem to serve as silent markers, breadcrumbs left for future journeys. You realize these aren't just random acts, they're an ongoing conversation with the desert, a way to leave a subtle, enduring trail where no natural one exists. It's like leaving a little sticky note in a really, really big sandy office. You also notice how they pay attention to the wind's direction and the subtle patterns in the sand dunes. The dunes themselves, shaped by the prevailing winds, can offer clues to direction, almost like giant, natural arrows pointing the way. They also seem to communicate with each other, exchanging knowledge of recent sand shifts or newly discovered routes. It's a constant process of adaptation, a fluid understanding of an ever-changing landscape. The journey is never static. It's a dynamic relationship with the elements. You, the camel, are a vital part of this navigation, too. While they read the stars, you read the ground. Your keen sense of smell can pick up the faintest hint of a buried water source, or the scent of distant vegetation. Your innate understanding of the terrain, your ability to sense subtle inclines or changes in sand density, complements their celestial calculations. You become their legs, their tireless engines, carrying them steadily towards destinations only they can truly visualize. The interplay between human intellect and animal instinct is what makes these long, improbable journeys possible. Despite the human's impressive navigation skills and your own incredible endurance, the desert remains a formidable adversary, constantly testing the limits of your resilience. You quickly learn about the Sahara's less forgiving moods, its sudden, terrifying shifts from serene vastness to violent, chaotic force. These are the perils that make every successful crossing a triumph. The most dramatic, and perhaps most feared, are the sandstorms. One moment, the sky is a brilliant, cloudless blue. The next, a distant, ominous haze appears on the horizon, growing rapidly. the wind picks up, carrying fine dust, then larger grains, until the air itself becomes a thick, suffocating wall of swirling sand. You feel the grit sting your eyes, even through your protective lashes, and coat your fur in a fine, abrasive layer. The humans become agitated, quickly shouting commands, urging you to kneel. You instinctively huddle low, turning your back to the wind, your powerful body a shield against the onslaught. A mainstream historical fact. Sandstorms or haboobs could last for hours, sometimes even days, completely obscuring vision and forcing caravans to halt, often burying supplies and sometimes even entire animals. They were a terrifying and dangerous reality of desert travel. Then there are the mirages. You see them, shimmering pools of water in the distance, promising relief that never materializes. Your instincts scream, water. But the humans, with their frustratingly superior vision and understanding, seem to know better, patiently guiding you past these cruel illusions. It's like being offered a delicious glass of ice water after a long run, only for it to vanish just as you reach for it. Over and over again. A quirky tidbit you pick up. Sometimes, on particularly hot days, you'd swear you could see entire cities, complete with towering minarets, floating just above the horizon. The human caravanners sometimes called these ghost cities, and they seemed to find them as perplexing, yet strangely beautiful, as you did. Historians still argue whether the detailed descriptions of specific ghost cities in ancient traveler accounts were purely the product of mirages, or if they sometimes reflected the lingering collective memory of long-lost desert settlements. And of course, there's the ever-present threat of scarce water. Even with the knowledge of oases, sometimes a well is dry, or a previously reliable spring has vanished beneath shifting sands. You feel the increasing thirst, the dry rasp in your throat. Your body's incredible ability to conserve water is pushed to its limit. You learn to recognize the subtle signs of dehydration in the humans, their chapped lips, their quiet desperation. It's a harsh reminder that even the ships of the desert are reliant on these precious, elusive resources. While attacks from desert brigands were a real threat to caravans in some eras, you, as a camel, are more focused on the natural dangers. You're designed to withstand the elements, but even your robust physiology has its breaking point. You witness the strength and resilience of your human companions during these trials. They work together, covering each other during storms, sharing the last drops of water, their faces grim but determined. It's a testament to the unbreakable spirit forged by the desert itself. Each time you emerge from a sandstorm, or finally reach a watering hole after days of thirst, there's a collective sense of relief, a quiet celebration of survival. The desert pushes you to your limits, but in doing so, it reveals the incredible strength within both you and your human companions. After what feels like an eternity of endless sand and sky, a new set of sensations begins to filter through the familiar desert air. The wind carries more than just dust now. There's the distant scent of cooking fires, the faint, mingled aromas of wood smoke, and something sweet, like dates or spices. You hear a low, continuous hum, a murmur of voices and activities that is utterly unlike the stark quiet of the open desert. You are approaching one of the great trade towns, the bustling arteries of the Sahara. The landscape itself starts to change, subtly at first. The dunes become less wild, giving way to more stable, packed earth. Sparse patches of cultivation appear, small, hardy fields of grain, carefully irrigated. You see more signs of human presence, faint tracks of other animals, discarded fragments of pottery, and then, in the shimmering distance, the unmistakable silhouette of structures. Walls. Towers. A mainstream historical fact. These desert trade towns, like Sijil Massa, Gao, and later Timbuktu, were not merely stops but powerful, wealthy centers that controlled the flow of gold, salt, slaves, and other valuable goods, acting as vital intermediaries between distant civilizations. As you draw closer, the hum grows into a distinct cacophony. You hear the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the bleating of goats, the excited chatter of human voices, and the occasional, indignant bray of a donkey. It's an assault on your senses after the profound silence of the desert, almost overwhelming. Your body, accustomed to the slow, steady rhythm of the march, feels a new kind of energy, a nervous anticipation. It's like arriving at a giant, noisy, open-air market after a month of solitary camping. You just hope there's a good spot to lie down. The caravan slows, joining other streams of camels, donkeys, and human porters all converging on the town gates. You are now part of a larger river of commerce flowing into the heart of a civilization. You feel the change in the ground beneath your feet, no longer soft sand, but hard-packed dirt and eventually, the uneven cobblestones of the town's perimeter. The air is thick with new smells: wood smoke, spices, human sweat, animal dung, and something metallic, perhaps the scent of trade goods. A quirky tidbit you observe is the elaborate headwear and clothing worn by the people here, far more intricate and colorful than the simple robes of the caravanners you've been with. It's a riot of patterns and dyes, a stark contrast to the muted tones of the desert. Some wear gleaming jewelry, others carry carved staff. It's almost as if they're putting on a fashion show just for your arrival. Historians still argue whether the distinct sartorial traditions of these desert towns developed primarily as a reflection of their newfound wealth and cultural exchange, or if they also served practical purposes, like indicating social status or tribal affiliation. You pass through massive, sun-baked gates, entering a labyrinth of narrow, winding streets. Buildings of mud brick rise on either side, some several stories high, casting welcome shadows. People spill out of doorways, conducting their business, their eyes scanning the arriving caravans for new goods and familiar faces. You see other camels, of course, resting in shaded courtyards, their loads already removed, looking utterly exhausted but content. The sense of purpose that has driven you across the desert now culminates here, in this vibrant, noisy heart of trade. Your long journey is temporarily over, and a new kind of sensory experience begins. Of all the trade towns, Timbuktu is a name whispered with reverence, a legendary nexus where the Sahara met the river and gold met salt. As you finally plod through its main gates, the sheer scale and vibrancy of it assault your senses. It's not just a town, it's a living, breathing symphony of commerce and culture, a stark contrast to the vast, empty beauty you've known. The streets are a chaotic, swirling river of humanity. You see people of every shade, draped in richly colored fabrics, their faces a kaleidoscope of tribal markings and expressions. Merchants haggle loudly over prices, their voices rising and falling in rhythmic chants. The air is thick with the competing aromas of exotic spices, cinnamon, cardamom, frankincense, mingling with the earthy scent of drying hides, the pungent tang of camel dung, and the sweet perfume of burning incense. It's a bit like stepping into a giant, incredibly aromatic, outdoor department store where everyone is shouting. You pass alongside towering mud brick mosques, their elegant, tapering minarets piercing the blue sky, seeming to rise organically from the earth itself. These aren't just places of worship. A mainstream historical fact is that Timbuktu was also a renowned center of Islamic scholarship and learning, housing vast libraries and universities that attracted scholars from across the Muslim world. Imagine, amidst all this desert, they had more books than many European cities at the time. Your handlers skillfully navigate the throng, guiding you through narrow alleys that suddenly open into bustling market squares. Here, the true wonders of Timbuktu are laid bare. You see piles of gleaming gold dust, weighed meticulously on delicate scales, traded for massive, crystalline blocks of salt that shimmer like ice. You see intricate leather goods, finely woven textiles, enslaved people, and an astonishing array of handcrafted jewelry. Each stall is a miniature world, overflowing with treasures from distant lands. It's a sensory overload, yet strangely exhilarating. A quirky tidbit you observe is the way the local children, seemingly oblivious to the monumental trade happening around them, chase each other through the legs of the camels and under the market stalls, their laughter bright and unrestrained. They seem to view the entire bustling scene as their personal playground, weaving in and out of the intense negotiations with fearless abandon. It's a charming contrast to the serious business of their elders. Historians still argue whether the apparent freedom of children in such busy urban environments was a reflection of specific cultural norms around child rearing, or simply a necessity due to the lack of dedicated play spaces. You finally reach a large, central caravanserai, a spacious courtyard designed specifically for resting camels and unloading goods. The heavy burdens are carefully lifted from your back, and you feel the wonderful release of tension. You immediately drop to your knees, then flop onto your side, rolling in the cool, packed earth, a blissful moment after weeks of continuous travel. The sounds of the city, though still loud, begin to blend into a background hum as you settle in, watching the unending flow of people and goods that define this legendary desert city. This is the culmination of countless miles, the very heart of the Saharan trade. After the relentless rhythm of the desert and the sensory explosion of Timbuktu, these days of rest and recuperation are a balm to your weary body. You spend your time in a spacious caravanserai, a quiet oasis within the bustling city. The soft, packed earth beneath your feet feels wonderfully forgiving after miles of rock and sand. Your heavy burdens have been removed, and your handlers see to your needs with a thoroughness born of long experience. They meticulously check your feet for any abrasions, gently apply salves to any chafed spots where the ropes might have rubbed, and ensure your saddle is aired and cleaned. It's like a spa day, if a spa day involved mud brick walls and the occasional fly landing on your face. You get to graze on fresh, rich fodder, a welcome change from the tough desert scrub. And of course, there's an abundance of cool, sweet water, always available, a luxury you rarely encounter on the trail. You drink deeply, letting your body fully rehydrate, feeling your strength gradually return. These periods of rest aren't just for physical recovery, they're also a chance to observe the fascinating human world around you. You watch other caravans arrive and depart, a constant ebb and flow of goods and people. You see merchants inspecting textiles, weighing gold, and counting out precious cowrie shells, which a mainstream historical fact tells us were used as currency in many parts of West Africa. The sheer volume of wealth changing hands is staggering, all of it facilitated by the tireless efforts of your kind. You notice the quiet, often unspoken, bond between the caravanners and their camels. Despite the harshness of the journeys, there's often a genuine respect, even affection. You see them gently stroking the necks of their favorite animals, murmuring low words of encouragement, or sharing a piece of dried fruit. It's a pragmatic partnership, certainly, but one softened by mutual reliance. A quirky tidbit. You sometimes hear the caravanners tell stories about particularly stubborn or clever camels, almost as if they were members of their own family, complete with unique personalities and amusing quirks. Historians still argue whether the apparent camaraderie between handlers and their camels was primarily a practical necessity for efficiency and control, or if it genuinely reflected deeper emotional attachments developed over long, shared journeys. You also get to witness the social fabric of the city. You see children playing games with worn wooden toys, women gossiping by the wells, and men gathered in shaded courtyards, sipping that strong, dark tea. The rhythm of daily life here is slower, more deliberate than the frenetic pace of the market, a testament to the stability provided by the caravan trade. You see the pride in the eyes of the local inhabitants, their city a beacon of learning and commerce in the heart of the desert. As your body mends and your energy returns, you feel a subtle shift within you. The urge to move, to trek, begins to stir once more. You are a creature of the desert, designed for endurance, and while rest is vital, the open spaces call to you. Soon, the familiar weight will be back on your humps, and the steady march will resume. But for now, you relish every moment of this comfortable reprieve, knowing it's the quiet preparation for the next grand adventure. The blissful days of rest, however, always draw to a close. One morning, the familiar routine returns. The caravanners gather their gear, the subtle scent of departure hangs in the air, and you feel the familiar, though unwelcome, pressure of the padded saddle being laid across your back once more. This time, your humps are laden with different treasures, not the gold and spices you brought in, but blocks of precious Saharan salt, heavy slabs that shimmer faintly in the morning light. A mainstream historical fact. Salt was incredibly valuable, often as precious as gold in many parts of sub-Saharan Africa, vital for preserving food and as a mineral supplement. The very idea of trading gold for salt might seem strange to us, but it was the foundation of this ancient economy. The return journey is rarely identical to the outbound one. While some oases are revisited, the specific paths taken might vary slightly due to recent sand shifts, the availability of grazing, or even rumors of new, more efficient routes. You feel the difference in the balance of your load. The salt, though dense, often settles differently than the more varied goods of the inbound trip. You quickly readjust your gait, finding the most comfortable stride for this new weight. It's a bit like driving a car that's suddenly full of bricks instead of fluffy cushions. You feel the difference, but you adapt. The rhythm of the march reasserts itself, but there's a different quality to it. On the way to Timbuktu, there was an excitement, an anticipation of the vibrant town. Now, on the return, there's a quiet determination, a steady push towards the familiar, if still distant, home pastures. The days are just as long, the sun just as relentless, and the sand just as demanding. You brave the same mirages, endure the same biting winds, and instinctively huddle down during the occasional, furious sandstorm. The desert, in its timeless indifference, offers no favoritism for the return trip. You notice the mood of the humans. They are still focused, but perhaps a little more relaxed, a quiet satisfaction in their demeanor. Their mission to trade has been accomplished, and now it's about the journey home, about the successful completion of a perilous task. You still see them consulting the stars at night and pointing to landmarks during the day, but their movements seem a little less urgent, a little more confident. Historians still argue whether the psychological toll of the return journey, often facing diminishing supplies and increasing fatigue, was greater than the outbound trip despite the goal being home. A quirky tidbit you observe is that on the return journey, the caravanners often seem to share more stories, their voices softer, almost reflective, as they sit around the campfires. Perhaps the shared accomplishment of the initial leg, and the anticipation of returning to their families, loosens their tongues. You hear snippets of laughter, and the occasional, melancholy tune sung under the vast, star-strewn sky. They might even offer you an extra handful of dates, a small gesture of appreciation for your tireless efforts. You are a seasoned traveler now, your body hardened by countless miles, your instincts sharpened by the desert's trials. The vastness no longer feels quite so overwhelming, it has become a familiar, if still challenging, friend. Each hoof print you leave behind marks not just a mile traversed, but a testament to your endurance, a quiet affirmation of your crucial role in bridging worlds. As seasons turn and countless suns rise and set, the cycle of the Saharan trade routes becomes the very fabric of your existence. You no longer just travel, you embody the journey. You experience the subtle, yet profound, shifts in the desert through the year, each one bringing its own set of challenges and unique beauty. There are the scorching summer months, when the sun is a relentless, overhead inferno and the very air shimmers with heat. During these times, the caravanners often adjust their schedules, traveling more by night, guided by the brilliant, unwavering stars, and resting during the day's peak heat. You learn to appreciate the brief, blessed coolness of the pre-dawn hours, a gentle reprieve before the furnace ignites once more. Your body's internal thermostat, a mainstream historical fact of camel physiology, is incredibly efficient at fluctuating to match external temperatures, minimizing water loss through sweating, allowing you to endure these extremes. Then come the cooler periods when the desert air is crisp and sometimes even surprisingly cold, especially at night. You huddle closer with your companions, relying on your thick winter coat, which grows even denser to protect you. The winds can be sharper, more biting, kicking up sand that feels like icy needles. You see the humans bundle themselves in layers of wool, their faces often chapped by the dry, cold air. It's a reminder that the desert isn't just about heat, it's a land of extremes. You become a living map, your memory etched with the countless variations of the landscape. You remember where a particular dune tends to shift, blocking a favored path, or where a hidden wadi might hold unexpected water after a rare, torrential rain. You instinctively know the safest places to lie down during a sudden gust of wind, or the most sheltered spots to rest during the blazing midday sun. A quirky tidbit you often observe is how the older, more experienced lead camels seem to sense subtle changes in atmospheric pressure, hinting at distant storms or rain long before the humans can detect them. Historians still argue whether this animal foresight is purely based on highly evolved senses or if there's an element of instinctual weather wisdom passed down through generations. The sounds of the desert also change with the seasons. In cooler months, there might be the distant cries of migrating birds, or the rustle of nocturnal creatures that emerge more frequently. In the heat, the silence is often profound, broken only by the crunch of your own footsteps or the low hum of the wind. Each journey builds upon the last, layering new experiences over old memories, deepening your connection to this vast, ancient land. You see generations of humans come and go, the young boys who once led you, now grown into weathered men, leading their own caravans. You are a constant in a world of change, a testament to the enduring purpose of your kind. The trails you leave behind, though ephemeral in the shifting sand, are etched permanently in the history of human connection and commerce. You are a timeless witness to the endless, cyclical dance between nature and human endeavor. Your life, lived in endless transit, has become a living testament to the profound legacy of the camel. You've been more than just a beast of burden. You've been the very engine of connection, the tireless bridge between distant cultures and economies. Without your kind, the sprawling narratives of ancient empires, the spread of religions, and the astonishing accumulation of wealth along the Saharan trade routes would have looked entirely different if they existed at all. You reflect on the countless times your broad hooves have churned the sands, carrying not just physical goods like gold and salt, but also ideas, technologies, and belief. A mainstream historical fact is that the trans-Saharan trade routes were instrumental in the spread of Islam into West Africa, carried by the very merchants and scholars who traveled with the caravans you enabled. Imagine, you indirectly helped carry the words of prophets across continents, all while trying not to trip over a stray rock. You've witnessed the ingenuity of humans, their ability to transform raw materials into exquisite goods, and then rely on your strength to transport them. You think of the intricate leatherwork you carried from the south, now adorning noblemen in the north, the gleaming metalwork from the north, now gracing the markets of the south. You were the vital link, the indispensable intermediary. You've literally been a cornerstone of globalization, long before anyone even knew what that word meant. A quirky tidbit that sometimes amuses you is how utterly mystified some of the local villagers are by the sheer volume of goods you carry. They sometimes stare with wide eyes at the towering loads of salt or the bulging sacks of grain, as if you're a magical, four-legged delivery service. They understand the concept of trade, but the scale of the trans-Saharan trade, the vast distances involved, remains an abstract concept to them, made concrete only by your arrival. Historians still argue whether the local populations along the trade routes fully grasped the geopolitical significance and economic power dynamics of the larger transcontinental networks that camels facilitated, or if their understanding remained primarily focused on the immediate, tangible exchanges at their own markets. Your impact is not just historical, it's ecological. You are perfectly adapted to this harsh environment, your very existence shaping the way humans interacted with the desert. You don't require vast amounts of water every day, you can subsist on thorny plants, and your specialized feet leave minimal impact on the fragile desert ecosystem compared to wheeled vehicles. You were the sustainable transport solution centuries ahead of your time. You've moved mountains of goods, but left only subtle hoofprints, quickly erased by the wind. Even now, though modern transportation exists, your kind endures. You are a living monument to an ancient way of life, a testament to resilience and adaptation. Every gentle journey you've made, every heavy load you've carried, has woven itself into the rich tapestry of human history, leaving an indelible mark on the sands of time. You are the quiet, unassuming giant upon whose back civilizations were built and connected. The sun, which has been your constant companion, your unblinking guide through countless journeys, now casts longer, softer shadows. You feel a subtle shift in your own energy, a slowing of the tireless rhythm that has defined your long life. Your steps, though still sure, carry a gentle weariness that even the fullest oasis cannot wash away. The fire within you, that incredible engine of endurance, still burns, but its flames flicker with a serene quietude. This is the twilight of a trader, a peaceful winding down after a lifetime of remarkable service. You remember the vastness of the desert, the way the stars looked like scattered diamonds on an inky cloth, the deceptive shimmer of distant mirages, and the sudden fury of a sandstorm. Each memory is a grain of sand, accumulated over countless miles, forming the dunes of your existence. You've seen generations of humans come and go, young boys who once led you, now weathered old men, their faces etched with the same desert sun that has warmed your own hide for so long. You've been a silent, steadfast witness to their laughter, their arguments, their hopes, and their dreams, all carried on your broad, strong back. The weight of the salt, the gold, the spices, the silks, it all seems like a distant, ethereal dream now. What remains is the feeling of the wind on your fur, the taste of sweet water after a long thirst, and the profound, quiet satisfaction of a life well lived, a purpose fully embraced. You've connected worlds, woven invisible threads of commerce and culture across an impossible landscape. You were the ship of the desert, the living bridge, the tireless heartbeat of an ancient global network. You find a soft patch of sand, still warm from the day's sun, and with a familiar sigh, you slowly lower yourself, your great body settling into the embrace of the earth. The air is still, the distant chatter of a far-off camp fading into a gentle hum. You hear the soft, familiar sounds of your herd, their quiet breathing a comforting rhythm against the vast silence of the desert night. The stars emerge, one by one, a familiar map painted across the velvet sky. You recognize Polaris, the steady anchor, just as your human companions always did. It feels like a final, knowing wink from the universe. Your breath comes slowly, deeply, a soft whisper against the gathering coolness. You are at peace, a magnificent creature of endurance, a silent titan of history. The journey is complete, the destination reached.